The mean is the mean is the mean is 1.91. The mean is always the mean. Then we did the error and got 2.72. And then we took the sample mean and added the error, the sample mean, and subtracted the error, and that gave me the confidence interval. So technically they only wanted two things. They wanted to know what the mean was, and they wanted to know what the confidence interval was. That's it. Those are the only two things they had to know. But we had to find the margin of error in order to get the confidence interval. And the very last thing that we're going to do is sometimes scientists and statisticians want to work backwards and say, I want a really good study, and in order to have a really good study, how many people do I need to ask? How many people is a good number to ask? Should I ask 5 people? Should I ask 5,000 people? How many people should I ask? So this last page is figuring out how many people is a good size. Choosing the correct sample size. So N is our sample size. How many people should I ask? So if I know what my standard deviation should be and I know what my error should be, I can work backwards and say, how many people should I ask? So if I know how good I want the survey, I can work backwards and say, this is how many people I should ask. So the number of people that you should ask is equal to 2 times the standard deviation divided by the error squared. Instead of writing the symbols, I just wrote what they are. So 2 times the standard deviation divided by the error, and then square that answer. That will tell you how many people you should ask to end up with the results that you want. So, let me cover up so we can look at this first problem. So it says, find an estimate of the sample size. So it's saying, how many people do I need to ask? If I want to end up with a $5 margin of error and a standard deviation of 20, how many people do I need to ask? So we're going to use that formula. The number of people equals 2 times the standard deviation over the error squared. So we're going to do 2 times 20 divided by 5, and then we're going to square it. So y'all, when I do this in my calculator, I do it in steps. I do the top, get an answer, divide it by the bottom, get an answer, and then square it. So that means you should ask 64 people. So in order to get the standard deviation error that you want, 64 people must be surveyed. Now, we show it right here worked out with like longhand, but that shows me how to work it out in the calculator. I work out the top, and then I divide it by the bottom, and then I square the whole thing. So you should ask 64 people. And remember, you can't ask part of a person. So if this was 64.7, your answer would be 65 because you cannot ask part of a person. So for this one, 2 times the standard deviation divided by the margin of error, and then square it. So what would my answer to this one be? 110. They went down to 109. I would have said 110, but they're using the rules of rounding.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say if that was a 5.5.
See, that was me. I would have gone up, but they're using the rules of rounding.
Well, you're looking at person.
I know. And see, we're rounding down. We good? And this is just plug and chug. And I did several of these, but they're using the rules of rounding. Here's a word problem that looks a lot harder than it is. People are watching TV, the margin of error is 0.25, the standard deviation is 1.7. Estimate the minimum sample size. So how many people do we need to ask? So N equals 2 times standard deviation divided by error squared. So 2 times 1.7 divided by 0.25 squared. So if I come to my calculator, I'm going to do 2 times 1.7, get an answer, divided by 0.25, get an answer, and then square it. So how many people would I ask? 185.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, I was
Sitting here like.
Whoop, there it is. So, that is it for the Unit 6 notes. So what we're going to do now for the rest of the class today, as well as the class tomorrow, or Thursday, is we're going to start reviewing for the exam. Now, as Amani's already said, there's lots of questions, okay? Hold on, let me cut this off for just a second. Copy. Now, in the 115 questions, she's not happy with me. But what I did is I decided to give you several of each type. That's fine. Give you several of each type so that you will have something to, you'll have several to look at. Hold on, I'm doing something real quick.
How many questions is on the plan?
The final exam is only 33 questions, or 30 or 33. Hold on, I'll look it up. It's either 30 or 33, and they're all multiple choice. So the review, I tell people the review is harder than I think the actual exam, and you will be taking the exam with me. So if you have a question about your calculator, or if you have a question about like the wording, you can ask me where you couldn't ask a tutor. All right, let me cover some of these up. I had a couple of answers that I didn't cover. Now, in your homework review, it does not affect your average, so you don't have to do it unless you want to. I just have it, I know there's some people who like to study a lot, and there's some who will just wing it. It is totally up to you. Hold on. Paste. What page am I on? That one. I'm not even covering those up because you better know that or I will beat you. Paste. Cover that one off. Paste. I'm covering up some answers real quick. Paste.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
I came a little bit late. You said we didn't have class on Tuesday?
Correct. I will see you Tuesday and Thursday this week, and I will see you just Thursday next week. Now, before we start talking about the final exam, let me ease your mind just a little bit. And I'm not trying to take anything off of the final exam.
Take it all.
But
First off.
your final exam counts 20%. Now, some of you are already done with your test and you're already done with your homework. Some of you still have a lot of homework and you still have a test. Once you finish your homework and your test, okay, all you will have left to do is your final exam, right? Because the review doesn't count, okay? So once you finish your homework and your test, you're going to look at your average in my math lab. That average counts 80% of your grade. Because your final exam counts 20% of your grade. Okay? This is called a weighted average that Ms. Cooper taught you how to do in this class. So everything that you've done up until the end of this week has been 80% of your grade. And your final exam, y'all, is nothing more than another test. All of your tests counted 20%. So this counts the same as all of your other tests. So let's say that you have done all of your homework and you've done all of your tests, your take-home test has been submitted. And let's say that your average, when you go to your grade book, somebody give me an average. Okay, a 92.7. Let's say that's what your average is after you've done everything. Let's say this is your average Wednesday, because everything's due Tuesday night. Yay? Now, in this class, in order to get an A, you have to have a 90 or higher. In order to get a B, you have to have between an 80 and an 89. In order to get a C, you have to have a 70 to 79. And a D is a 60 to 69, and an F is a 0 to 59. Now, we are going to pray to the math gods for an A, B, or C. Now, some of y'all, your degrees will allow you to get a D. So, if you get a D, don't freak out on me. Talk to your advisor, you may be okay with a D. Some advisors will let you have a D. Okay? So, 92.7 is our average on Wednesday. I go to my calculator, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 92.7 times 0.80. Now, what you're going to put in this is what you think you're going to make on the exam. So we're going to start out very optimistic, and we're going to put in 100 times 0.20. So if I make 100 on the exam, this is the highest average I can end up with in the class. So there's a chance I can make an A. Okay? Now, I'm going to do second enter. I'm going to back that thing up, and I'm going to say, okay, what if I don't make 100? What's the lowest I can make and still keep my A? So let's put in like an 85. I still have my A. So let me do second enter. Let's type in, let's say, an 80. I still have my A. So let me go to like a 78. I am Miss Cooper. I am a math teacher. I use the rules of rounding. So this is saying on your exam, you can make a 78 or higher and still keep your A if you have a 92.7 going into class. Does that make sense? Then, if I come back and say, okay, I can breathe, what do I have to make to get a B? Because I've got some other tests to study for. So if I come out here and I say, okay, let me back up. Y'all with me? Go a little bit lower. I can make a 30 up to a 77 on my exam and still get a B in the class. Now, watch this. What is that telling me? If I don't even, like if I just put my name on the exam, I am still going to pass the class with a C because I've worked my honey off all semester. So I can breathe that I'm going to pass this class. Now, on the other hand, if I have somebody, because I always have this happen, I have somebody who comes into my exam, let's say with a 61.3 average, and they say, I'm going to stay up all night long, every night for the next week and a half, and I'm going to get an A out of this class. Y'all, let's do the math. Because they will be the last person taking my exam, and they will spend 4 hours taking my exam because they want an A. Watch. If we do a 61.3 that counts 80% of their grade, and if they made 100, which is the maximum that they can make, you ain't getting an A, you ain't getting a B. And is that even rounding to a C? You with me?
Yeah.
which is why you're wasting both of our times. Cool? Alright, so I just want you to be aware that you have a bunch of tests to study for. I want you to do your best, but I also want you to realize you don't have to make a 99 or 100 to keep your A. We good? Alright, now, let's start talking for a second about the exam review. And I'm going to kind of go through these fast. I'm going to have it on video. I'm going to put it out there in your notes. And when I post the notes today, under today, lecture notes from this semester, and I just realized I didn't post the 20th, but under today, I will post 2 sets of notes. I will post the chapter 6 stuff, the unit 6 stuff, and then I'll post the final exam stuff separately, okay? So, what I did is I took the homework problems. In your homework section, they're mixed up, because that's how I want you to study them. In mine, I put them kind of in order of the way that we taught them during the semester. So, do we remember quantitative and qualitative?
Yes.
Okay, so some of this is going to go through quickly, some of this is going to go through. So qualitative, remember those are letters. Quantitative, those are numbers. But the letters can also be social security numbers, they can be jersey numbers, they can be area codes. Remember that? So, the color of your house, what is that?
Qualitative.
The color of your house is going to be qualitative. And your exam is multiple choice, so this one's going to be kind of like what it's going to be on your exam. The times of birth babies. Qualitative or quantitative? Quantitative. Okay,
Because they consist of counts and measurements.
because it's counting a time. So just because you have quantitative doesn't mean you truly know the answer. This one's going to be C. And I'm not looking at the exam. The exam is what